You're watching the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
There's a lot of tech out in the podcast vein. We all know it. We've all bought this stuff. You gotta have the best stuff or your podcast is going to fail. Or is it? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot inside of this episode as I present in front of my glorious green screen inside of this episode of the Podcast Gauntlet, where we throw down, discuss, rise, and shine in podcasting. Greetings, everybody. I'm Mike Wilkerson, one of your hosts.
And I'm Bryan Entzminger, the other one of your hosts.
Bryan, I think we could establish a podcast and only talk about tech forever.
Yeah, for sure.
If there was a vein of, oh my God, there's something else that's come out, it would be podcasting. There's no question in my mind. Whether it's, again, I just happen to be in front of an elaborate green screen for this particular episode, for those that are watching. For those that aren't watching, I am in front of a green screen, and behind me is this glorious blue-hued, white outline tactical map that I was using for my recent 24podcast.com effort. And it's glorious, and it's a piece of tech that's not all that expensive to jump into. The way that green screens have now changed completely, almost totally, out of every single online video conferencing set. It's pretty amazing. I do have a formal green screen that is behind me, but I got to tell you, as long as you're not doing a lot of gyration and you don't have hair that's nearly as ornate as mine, you can get away with a lot on just a standard screen with whatever background you got now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really interesting to see how things have shifted even just in the last couple of years. I'm always a proponent of getting the best you can for your budget, absolutely. But man, some stuff has changed. When I first built this room, when I was working on this room in 2020, 2021, something like that, the green screen technology wasn't nearly what it is now. And so I actually bought some green screens. I really tried to get them set up well, and it looked like garbage. And so to see what you've been able to do now is just so much more incredible than what I was trying to do then.
Yeah, really the secret with green screen and I'm talking about formal green screen too, really is lighting. And inside of this room, I've got some reasonably good lighting. There's I have a couple of soft bag lights, just one in front of me off to the left, but then also above in the room, I've also gotten some Govies, essentially rope lights. And they add a panache that you can dial in and down perfectly. And it really does work well with the green screen, whether it's me in pasty white Irishness or someone else that's got a darker complexion. I've had everybody inside the studio, and it really, really does work well. Again, the secret to glorious, well-put green screen is really good, solid lighting that, again, I can remember the days where you'd have to spend probably a couple $1,000s on really, really good lights. That all has changed as well. I think in total inside of this room, I probably have $350, maybe $400 total inside of lights. And that's for everything I would ever need inside of this room. A couple of soft bag lights, the Govee rope lights, and then just a couple of spots that I use for, especially people that have hats on. They want to have a hat on. I want to light the bottom of their face underneath their hat. And so it's just a couple of very inexpensive spots that can go wherever I want. But beyond that, the way that camera technology now works, as well as the lighting you can have, as well as the software working inside of the green screen environments, it's pretty magical. What I do also notice, though, is that there's been several of the episodes of the Podcast Gauntlet that you've edited over the course of the last probably 6 months, and just done a wonderful job with those, not just because of your ridiculously good editing skills, but also because just there's something to, hey, look, that guy's just in his studio, look. And so breaking up what you have every now and again, even though you're jumping outside of the norms of what might be considered a branding issue or something that you're trying to emphasize inside of your workup, I like that. I think it instantly gives you a different ice cream flavor that allows your audience to take you in and then just get more and then want some more to come back for the next episode. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. One of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of this one. This actual episode came up because of a Facebook post that I saw where somebody was saying, hey, this is the camera I'm thinking about getting, this and this and this, and that kind of stuff. Is this good enough? And man, the comments that like people were like, oh, you have to use at least this camera. And they're talking like thousands and thousands of dollars or your podcast will fail. Well, for starters, you don't have to do video if you don't want to. So no camera is an option. And while I love having high quality gear and a well-treated room and a well-lit room and a reasonably good camera, although I'm not using an expensive camera either, and my lights are probably no nicer than yours, the fact is you don't have to have that. You absolutely can get started with a sub $100 microphone that plugs directly into your computer and edit with free audio software and not do video if you want to. And you might fail or you might succeed. But the fact is, unless the actual content you want to make requires those other things, or you have a burning desire to do them, you don't have to do it. And while I like to chase the newest trends in microphones and that kind of stuff, you don't have to. The two most common microphones that people look at and go, man, that is the microphone to have, the SM7B by Shure and the RE20 by Electro Voice, or one of its younger siblings that are slightly less expensive. Those microphones have been around for like 40, 50 years. They are not the newest tech. They are not groundbreaking in what they do. What they are is something that stood the test of time. And yes, they're expensive, but there are less expensive ways to get about the same result. And if you're skillful with how you edit and how you approach things, and if you're not doing blind A/B tests between one mic and the other, nobody's going to know. It's not going to matter. I know of people that have recorded audiobooks and done voiceover on $15 and $20 microphones. It can be done if you know what you're doing.
There's no question. And soliciting some help to try and figure out what you can do, especially with less expensive gear, is a really, really good, solid option. It's one of the things that really just burns my ass about the failure of the local meetup in regard to podcasting. I've been inside of other cities, in particular for just conventions, where amazingly there's 40 and 50 people at a podcaster meetup. And inside of our local St. Louis efforts, man, over the course of the last 15, almost 20 years, I've been podcasting for 20 years now, it's abysmal. The turnout is terrible. Those that do turn out, they eventually just fade because it's usually the same 4 or 5 people. And that's not to say that the 4 or 5 people don't appreciate the company of the others, but again, it's the same 4 and 5 people talking about kind of the same things, or maybe having a topic to talk about, but you got the same people and you're kind of at either the same place, or you can't find a place that's central to people, or whatever the thing is. But again, finding just somebody to talk to that won't instantly tell you, well, great, grab your checkbook and spend $3,500 quick. Not optimal, right?
No, and in some cases, 35 is on the low end of what they might suggest.
Yeah. There's no question, too. In fact, I know a lot of people that have just found their way into a credit card, and they just start piling it up because they now have a credit card to build their podcast studio avarice out of whatever they've got on their credit card. And guys, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Know that there is a good, solid, foundational way to get whatever you want. I think one of the best samples I can think of is that right now I'm using a camera that collects 1080p inside of our StreamYard interface that we've been using since inception. Bryan and I have been with StreamYard, I think, since inception of not only our program, but just right after the inception of StreamYard. In particular, after I think one of their most important sales is I think when we really started ramping up Podcast Gauntlet.
Yeah.
And, there's so many features and new things and doodads, but what they don't typically allow you to do is they don't allow you to grab high quality content from more than one camera. So the sample is inside of the studio here. Bryan's using his camera with his abilities and throwing it through, getting whatever he needs to, and that's cool. The problem is that if I want to mount 5 different cameras on 5 PCs in this room and tether them in via my internet connection, starts to eat up the bandwidth quickly, but more importantly, it starts looking like I'm shooting my video through a potato. It's just like hunka chunka, where is it really worth running the video through it? And especially depending on the content that we're filming, the most recent one that came up where that sample came up was our gunencyclopedia.com effort, where I'm not telling you that the overhead camera where we're showcasing the firearms that Arian is talking about is vastly more important than anything else. But while he's talking about him, it is.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm super curious. You've only just captured the first 2 episodes of that program. By the way, it's over at gunencyclopedia.com. And we've only captured the first 2 episodes of that program. But it's where now I also have to decide, am I going to flick the switch on jumping up in program inside of StreamYard so that I can capture the at least 1080p? And actually, they'll allow us to go up much higher inside of StreamYard in regard to resolution if you pay the money.
Sure.
The problem is that the money is, I think, if I remember correctly, it's at least double what the current standard base rate is. And again, it kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish with it, how much money you've got flowing through whatever the coffers or project is. All that plays a giant role. But it's something that you also have to consider. It's also another reason why we've talked about it inside of another episode that we'll link inside of the description down at the here or in the show notes over at podcastgauntlet.com. It really does all depend on whether you're going to go video, but then also take on what comes with jumping into video. Right. Because the things you must remember or you will fail stack up very, very quickly inside of the video game. I think one of the things that I have probably the most trouble with is just the assumption that because you can go grab your cell phone and shove that in front of you, and you can get a series of microphones that are, I've got them across the room here, but that are essentially inside of what looks like an ear pod case, and put those on your lapel, that you can do that. And well, video's no problem. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's a lot more involved. And again, that episode that Bryan and I did really does showcase just the very front end dorsal fins of everything inside of the video game.
Yeah. If I could leave people with one thing, first off, you don't have to do video, but you can. And I think what Mike really keyed in on there is you don't have to have the Rodecaster video. You don't have to have a Rodecaster Pro. You don't have to have a Shure SM7B. You could potentially work with those clip-on lav mics, like those little Rode wireless mics that he was talking about. But the thing is, you need to step into it knowing what you're doing, getting some guidance, making very, very wise, judicious decisions, not quick and knee-jerk decisions like I did when I bought my wireless lav, although part of the reason for me doing it was to test it so I could tell people if it's any good, because people are asking all the time. So I think the other part of that I really want to key in on is Mike talked about the value of networking or relationships. We have a Nashville podcasters group. I almost never make it because it's on a day of the week when I have other commitments. So I can't make it. But if you can make those kinds of things, those might end up being more valuable than anything else. Not because you're going to find new listeners for your show there, not because you're going to sell your services if you're an editor, although you might. It's in developing those relationships, hearing about what other people are doing, and having people to cheer you on and provide their experience so that you don't have to go screw up everything yourself to find out. Because most of what I've learned is because either I've screwed up or I found somebody else who can tell me what not to do so I can try and figure out from there what to do.
I love that vein of thought. In fact, the concept that I try to put towards everybody when they come and visit me in my scheduler, it's over at stlpodfather.com, is I have made every mistake you don't have to make. You just have to ask me about it. And it's a freeing element to know that over the course of 20 years in podcasting, I have somehow stepped in it. Whatever it is, it's because I was looking for the next vein of money making, or the next thing that would propel the ability for me to do content that compels other people to come back and get more content. Or just to help somebody make content that they didn't know how, and they were looking for a good, cost-effective, outside-the-box solution. Yeah. I love to do that. It's a piece of problem solving that fuels me inside of podcasting. And I think the technology bug can fuel just about everybody. In fact, I'm reasonably certain it does, because it's the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Guys, the bottom line inside of this episode is that you can go hunting for the brand newest, most expensive thing inside of podcasting. There will never be a time where you can't, but you don't have to. And just remember that if you have to start basic, and I totally think that you should. In fact, Bryan and I will leave what is essentially a podcaster recipe inside of the description inside of this video, but then also over at the show notes about what we think you could use to build a good, solid, foundational element inside of podcasting, both audio and video. How's that sound, Bryan?
Yeah, that sounds great.
We'll put that inside the show notes, but then also the description inside of the video element here inside of YouTube. And by the way, if you are watching over at YouTube or wherever we're putting this video, thank you so much again for growing the video presence inside the Podcast Gauntlet. The last series of episodes have grown and swollen. We love us some swollen podcast episode counts. So much so that we did an episode about that too. Whoa, what? What is all this episode linking, Mike? What is this? What is this library growing that you're doing? Well, we're growing library because you guys can help us grow the Podcast Gauntlet by going over to our website over at podcastgauntlet.com. To connect with us, you can use the comments over here inside of the video area, or if you're accessing via audio, you can use the web form over at our website at podcastgauntlet.com. Fill out that quick web form and tell us what you think about the imposition, the impact, the imp of everything inside of technology when it comes to podcasting. Until next time, inside the Podcast Gauntlet, where we throw down, discuss, rise and shine in podcasting, I'm Mike Wilkerson, one of your hosts.
And I'm Bryan Entzminger, just getting ready to buy my next microphone, the other one of your hosts.
Thanks again for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. There's a lot of tech out in the podcast.
This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, tons.
I love it.